To not say anything. That silence says that I actually agree. I agree to what either had been said or not said, what had been communicated, written down, whatever. But to not say anything would say, I agree to it. To not say anything could also say, hey, I'm too embarrassed to share my true story because I don't want others to look at me in a negative fashion. I don't want other people to maybe not see the real me or see me in a transparent manner. To not say anything sends a message that maybe I don't want to offend anyone, so I'm just going to get and keep silent. But today, I wanted to share this message with you because this is what drives me to live my best life. You see, in the beginning, everything started out really good. We met in a bookstore, and I could see him going by and noticed him. He noticed me. He actually came over to me, spoke. We sat down, began talking. One question led to another, and he asked me out on a date. I had him actually come to my parents' house because I did not want him knowing where I lived, initially being a single parent with 2 children, and I felt that was the safest thing to do. So as we got to know each other and the relationship escalated, things got pretty serious. And 6 months later, we were engaged. I remember so clearly, very happy. And I liked that he smiled all the time. But just because someone smiles, that doesn't mean that they're happy. Everything was going good, but I'll tell you this, my children, they actually knew. And if you listen to your children, if you're dating someone, get their feedback on what their position really is about that individual. I'll also tell you this, I don't care how strong you are as a woman, abuse can happen to strong professional women as well. So we were dating, we were engaged, and all the right questions had been asked. I had been praying. You know, here it is, I'm 40. I'm finally at a stage where my children are older. My first priority next to God as being a parent. I've given as much as I could to them. They were encouraging me to get out, to date, to meet someone, and I was finally ready at that stage in my life. And sometimes you just don't know who a person really is until you're actually with them. So my fiance had been married before, and his first wife, as soon as he and I got engaged, he wanted me to start going to the exchanges, picking up the children, etc. And my family insisted on that as well as a way to get to know the mother of his children. And who he described her to be was actually different than who she was. So given that, at the start there was a lot of stressors that affected, not on our end because my children were older, but his were younger. So my fiance was served with papers shortly after we had gotten married that his visitation with the children was being taken away. His child was checked into the psych ward, was being over-medicated. There were a number of issues that were impacting the relationship. But being that I was so happily married or about to be married, I did the things that I saw my parents do and what I felt was the right thing to do. So there were a lot of unresolved issues that I was unaware of, and time revealed, along with other pressures. Imagine being served with papers that, the visitation with your children is being taken away. That has to be hard, and still wanting to go on with your life. But the reality was, he knew what was going on in that area, but wasn't honest with himself nor honest with me. The result was a lot of anger, a lot of rage, stuff that I never even grew up with. And, when we saw it, the children saw it before I did, but when I finally saw it, I was absolutely astounded. I mean, there were so many occasions. On one occasion, I'll never forget, I had our normal routine, take my son to practice, and something had happened and he wasn't ready at that time. So I said, hey, we're going to go on. When I came back, my laptop was broken. Something else was damaged. That was pretty astounding. And then in the conversation, there was ownership of what happened, but I've never seen anyone hit themselves in the head, or why did I do this? Or it's just really weird things, stuff that I didn't grow up. But if there are unresolved issues inside, that can affect anything good that you're trying to build, whether you've prayed or done whatever. Mental illness is real. On another occasion, on my birthday, I didn't, I'm not one of those that you have to really go overboard. I like nice gifts, but as time went on, I learned that there was a lot of debt that he had. I was debt free, but so my thought was, you don't have to overspend for me. And for him, that was hard. But there's some things I learned about myself too, in terms of receiving, that, it's okay to receive, but there's a lot of factors involved. But just the outcome, broken remote control. And this anger grew to physical abuse, pushing me, doing different things. And in a year and a half, there were over 12 police calls. In fact, one event I remember, I was driving a really big SUV at the time and had gotten in the vehicle to step away. I had called a friend to help, and he literally tried to bang out the back window of a Hummer, an H2. That was quite not rational. But these things are real, and it only grew from damaging things that were dear to me to physically trying to harm me. And at that stage, I had to hear the voice. I had to hear the voice from my children. Just things to try to protect myself. Start recording, but I'm faced with my family insisting that I support. And do I leave or do I stay? And this was all like, wow, I waited all these years, and now I'm dealing with this. And so there was this agreement to go to counseling. And he actually suggested it, and I went with him. And the counseling is only as good as the receiver. And his doctor ended up diagnosing him and subscribing to him medication that, I was unaware of, psychotic meds, but Seroquel was one of them, and it actually helped temporarily. But then the instances grew worse, to where my name was forged, and it became money things. And at that stage, you have to know to back out and to make the decision. To not say anything says, Elyse, you're too embarrassed to share with people. Those that are close to you may know, but some people have asked, or, hey, where is this person, or where is that? But I didn't want to necessarily make him look bad, but it's been put on my heart. You've got to share your story, because someone else may have been going through, or is going through the same thing. And I just want to tell you that you're not alone. But I also want to tell you, you've got to live your best life. And that's the stage that I'm at today. So if you imagine a compound fracture and a hairline fracture, and I learned this with my daughter and my son, both athletes. A hairline fracture cracks the bone. A compound fracture cracks the bone all the way through and the skin is broken. The procedure for healing both require immediate medical attention, but with a compound fracture, you have to treat for shock. You have to do immediate surgery to clean the area for debris, broken bones inside of the skin, and there's a high chance of infection that can set in. When that infection set in, if it does, it's very hard to clear. But one thing for sure, when a compound fracture grows back, when those bones grow back from a compound fracture, they grow back stronger because it's such a high area amount of calcium in the area of the fracture that it's stronger in that particular area. The other area, it demineralizes, but it grows back stronger. In a hairline fracture, different process, both require casting and immediate attention. But I also learned that the younger it occurs, like in a child, broken bones grow faster in a child than they do in an adult. And what that says to me, I'm using that in parallel to, if you feel that you have been broken, that you have been through a hard situation, and I'm talking broken all the way through, and you've acquired or require immediate attention, just know that you got to get everything clean. And if you've been broken, that's actually a good spot to be in, because when the healing takes place, you will be stronger, especially in that area of brokenness. The moment that I said I'm living my best life, yeah, a lot of people were with me and people were excited, and they still are. Hey, looking forward to these messages, and I hope that this one really hits home. But I'm sure there are some, oh, look at her. Who does she think she is? Or I already knew that. Or they may have a negative attitude, or whatever the case. The moment that you commit to doing something very good for yourself, for your family, for those that rely on you, trust that you're going to acquire those that hate. They don't understand. They may have half the story. They may have lies. But this is my story that I'm sharing with you. And I'm telling you this, when you commit to being whole through a broken area, you can reach out and touch others through my brokenness. And I'm thankful to God that I waited, that my children were older. When Child Protective Services hit the school and started questioning my daughter, and she didn't know, she wasn't taught what to say, what not to say. And they came to the home and told him that he had to leave. I knew at that moment that things weren't right. There was no amount of support that I could give to him that would make that situation right. I had to be willing to let it go. Ladies, men, whomever you are, you don't have to go through something that is not meant for you. Allow the situation to be what it is. And I'm not saying fight for things that are not right and that aren't for you, but I am saying that you'll know, your children will know, and you'll know from God. There will be signs. Pay attention to the signs. And in that area of brokenness, when you go through the proper treatment and you get it cleaned up, you too can live your best life. This is Elyse. I took time on Tuesday. I started jotting this down, and I wanted to be transparent and share with you my story. Don't let what other people say, oh, this person is too loud, or she's too passionate, or wow, she aired out her story and that looks negative on this or that. No, you've gone through what you've gone through for a reason. Someone else may need to hear it. And I know that time was nigh. This was the time to share my story. And if I could be brought out through my situation, you can be too. And be encouraged. Again, let me know if you liked it. I'll continue sharing these more. And I just wanted to encourage you and let you know that you're not the only one, but you can make it through. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't give in. Now is not the time. Believe in yourself. Keep going. You can do this. You got this. You are your Father's blessed child. Have a wonderful, fantastic day.